Hello, and we are back for day 2 of our cinnamon rolls. So yesterday we did step 1, stage 1 of yeast bread production, and we scaled our ingredients, and then we mixed and kneaded our dough to form our cinnamon dough, which is a rich dough. And then we let it rise, which is called fermentation. That's the first rise. We are going to let it rise again today after it shapes, which is called proofing. So there are 2 rises when making cinnamon rolls. The first one is fermentation, which is just the first initial dough rise. And that is what we did here. So we made that dough. We let it activate and we let it ferment, and it doubled in size. So what happens is the yeast and eats the sugar, and then it produces carbon dioxide, which is waste, and it's not a bad waste. It flavors your bread, and then it doubles in size, which is what this looks like. Okay, we are going to let it rise again, which is called proof, and that is going to be our second rise. So what we're going to do now is step 4 of yeast bread production, and we are going to take our fist and we are going to release all the air and the gases. Okay, that relaxes the gluten, and so we can shape our dough. So what we're going to do now is we are going to let this I'm just going to let this relax for a second, just so it's easier to work with. In the meantime, we are going to prep our filling and our pan. All right. So in your recipe, it says you need a full-size hotel pan. That you could use a 9x13 pan. You're going to get 16 cinnamon rolls, so I'm using a 9x13 pan. Okay. The recipe calls for 2 sticks of butter. 1 stick of butter is going to get melted and put into the pan. The other stick of butter is going to get melted and it's going to be put on the rolled out dough. Okay, so it says divided. That's what it means. You need 1 cup altogether. Half cup goes melted in the pan. The other half cup gets melted on the dough. All right. Then you need 1 3/4 cup of sugar. A quarter of it is going to go on that melted butter. And then the other 1 1/2 cups of sugar is going to go on the dough with the second half cup of melted butter. And you're going to combine that with 3 tablespoons, large tea, of cinnamon. All right, so that is going to go on top of our butter mixture on the dough. Okay, we're just going to combine this together, just like so. So it's all ready. In the meantime, I have already melted our butter. So I melted our butter just in a microwave-safe plastic measuring cup. All right. So I'm just going to set that off to the side. All right. So here is the first half cup of melted butter. All right. So I'm just going to pour you need all of it. Sometimes students will hesitate and they'll be like, we don't need all of it. No, you need all of it. Okay, I'm telling you, you need all of it. So I'm going to take a rubber scraper just to kind of spread that butter out. Okay, then, so this is preparing a yummy goodness on the bottom of that pan when we put the cinnamon rolls in there. Okay, so we put our quarter cup of sugar. Remember the recipe, it says 1 3/4 divided. So a quarter cup goes in the pan. This is going to make a deliciousness on the bottom of your pan. Okay, so now our pan is ready to go. I'm just going to set that off to the side. Okay, and now we are going to take our dough. I'm going to sprinkle down just a little bit of flour. You don't need a lot of flour. So what happens is if you put down too much flour on your work surface, it's going to dry out your dough. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on my work surface. I'm going to take a rolling pin and I'm going to go back and forth to lightly coat my rolling pin. I'm not drenching it, dousing it with too much flour, because all you're going to do is dry out your dough. Okay. Now I'm going to take my dough, and I'm not going to do a lot with it. Okay. I'm just going to start pressing out my dough. All right. This is going to help relax the dough so it's easier to roll. What happens when dough is not relaxed, yeast bread dough is not relaxed, is it just, you roll out and then it shrinks back up to a smaller size that you don't want. Just going to sprinkle just a little bit more of flour, and then we're going to take a rolling pin and we are going to roll this out to a large rectangle. All right, so I'm just going to roll this out to a large rectangle, okay? Now, if it's not a perfect rectangle, that's okay if your edges are a little bit rounded. You just want to make sure that it is about 12 by 15, okay? About 12 by 15, okay? That will be a really good size for your cinnamon rolls. And you notice how easy it's rolling out for me. That's because I let the dough rest, okay? I let the dough rest so it did not spring back. If you don't let the dough rest, or sometimes people will try to re-knead or rework their dough, and they get really frustrated because it's like all tangled and knotted, and this doesn't work for them. You really need to just let it rest, roll out, don't do too much handling, or else it ruins it, okay? Now we are going to put our second half cup of melted butter right in the center of that dough, just like so. I'm just kind of pouring it around, all right, just so it doesn't go off onto my workspace. And you're using the whole half cup of melted butter. All right. If we were making these to serve to the public, like for our Javachino event we make these for, I would be wearing gloves, but I am making these at my house just for the purpose of showing you. So it's fine. Right. Now I'm going to take all 1.5 cups of sugar and 3 tablespoons of cinnamon that I combined, and I'm going to pour all of it right on the top of my butter, and I'm going to spread this around. So sometimes students are like, I'm not using all that cinnamon sugar. No, you want as much of the cinnamon sugar as possible because it's going to add all of that yummy goodness in the center of those cinnamon rolls. Okay, so you're just going to kind of move this around, making sure that all of that butter is combined with the cinnamon and sugar. Okay, so you're almost making it like a cinnamon sugar paste. So you want it evenly spread out on your cinnamon rolls. Okay, just like so. Okay, and I am just about done. All right, so now we are ready to roll. So rolling cinnamon rolls is one of the most important steps. I'm just going to rinse my hands. So the reason why this step is really important is you really want to get a nice spiral on your cinnamon roll. Okay. So now we're going to be shaping, okay? Sometimes recipes for yeast bread, you will make the dough, you release the air, you shape, portion, and sometimes they're flip-flop depending on what you're doing. We didn't have to portion yet because we're going to be portioning after they are shaped, okay? So I am going to go on the short side, not the long side, okay? And I am going to start rolling up my dough. So if you see how I'm doing this, I'm kind of twisting and pressing with my fingers, my thumbs. And I want to, I'm trying to get as tight of a spiral as I possibly can, okay? And you want to keep it as even as you can as you're going through. Okay, so we'll be right back and I'll show you what that looks like when it's all rolled up. All right, so I finished rolling up our dough. So you can kind of see I pulled the edges. So good yeast bread, you can really stretch it out and it evens out the sides. So now I'm just kind of making sure that all the rolls are the same dimensions and thickness. And now I'm going to cut and portion our cinnamon rolls. So I am going to be using a serrated knife. You can also use, sometimes at school, to get a very clean cut, we will use like twine or dental floss or string. I find that this serrated knife works really good. So we want to get 16 equal portions. So to do that, you're going to cut in the center first. So now I have 2. Then we're going to cut in the center of that. So then I'm going to have 4 portions, and I'm trying to get them as equal as possible. Now, if I want to be super equal, I could get out a ruler, okay? So now I have 4 portions. Now I'm going to cut each of those portions in half, just like so. So now I'm going to have 8. Notice that it's not damaging or denting my cinnamon roll. That's why I use the serrated knife. All right, serrated knife works the best. So I have 8 portions. Now we're going to cut each of these portions in half to make 16. All right, so very slowly, because now it's getting much thinner. So it's a little bit more tricky to cut these portions, but you can see that that serrated knife and going slow back and forth is really going to help that. And you want to make sure you have the 16 portions, because these are going to rise again. That second rise I was telling you about, proofing, that will make them puff up again before baking. And then will also help add flavor. Okay, so last one, and then we are good to go. So now I have 16 portions. I'm going to take my pan, and you can see my spiral. So I'm going to put these in my pan. I'm going to press them out. Okay, like I said, they're going to rise again. And when you put them nice and close together, it makes the sides nice and soft. Okay, so I'm going to fill my pan. I'm really going to shove them in there 4 by 4. Okay, and all of that butter stays in the bottom. It's going to make a nice sugary mix on the bottom of my pan. Okay, so 4 by 4, you can see. And then I'm going to press those cinnamon rolls with that butter and sugar on the bottom right in. And you can kind of squeeze them in. Again, that's going to make, they're going to rise again, fill this whole pan up from the top to the bottom. Okay. They start coming unrolled, that's okay. Just going to press them in. Sometimes students, when they're assembling these, they're like, they don't put them close together, and I'm telling you, it makes them really yummy when they're close together. Okay, so we're just about done. All right, so we have our last. You can see my spiral is beautiful, nice and tight. And that one is our end. So it doesn't have as much cinnamon, but that's okay. We're going to glaze it, and no one will even know. All right, so just going to press this out. Now, I'm going to let this rise a second time, called proofing, for about 20 minutes uncovered before I put it in the oven. So I will show you what that looks like. In the meantime, I am going to be showing you how to make the cream cheese glaze. So we'll be back to show you that in 1 sec. Hello, and right now I'm going to show you how to make the creamy glaze for the Cinnabon cinnamon rolls. So right now our fries, they're almost done. So I'll show you what that looks like when they're done. In the meantime, we're going to combine our glaze ingredients. So the glaze is almost like a frosting, but it's not like ready as soon as those cinnamon rolls come out of the oven. So it kind of all melts into all the swirl and flavors everything. It tastes really, really good. So the first thing we're going to do, cream cheese glaze uses cream cheese. So I'm just using generic from Amazon cream cheese. You can get at Aldi, Jewel, Tony's, wherever you want. Okay. And you need 3/4 cup, which is equivalent to 6 ounces. So how are you going to do that? So just like butter, this has a line that shows you 1 ounce, 2 ounces, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 ounces altogether, and we need 6 ounces. So I'm just going to cut it right at the 6, just like so. I'm just going to cut that. All right. And then I'm going to have 2 ounces right off to the side that I do not need, that I can save for a bagel. All right. So now what we're going to do is I am just going to take our cream cheese out, and I'm going to put it in a mixing bowl. Now, if you wanted, you could do this with a hand mixer. It would save you time, but you can do it by hand. I'm going to do it by hand just so you can see that you can do it by hand. A lot of people think you can't, but you can. All right. So I have my cream cheese, and then I have a 1/2 cup of butter. All right. All room temperature. It will be easier to mix. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rubber scraper, and I'm just going to combine the two of these together. So as you can see, if we were using a mixer, we would just kind of mix this all together. And then it would go much faster. But you can see I'm already almost, it's not perfectly combined, but as long as it's room temperature, it will combine. Just keep going around the sides. Okay. I've already pre-measured our other ingredients. So to this, once this is all mixed, we are going to add 2 cups of powdered sugar. So as you can see, powdered sugar is the light and fluffy sugar. It's an icing sugar. So it's going to melt into our butter and our cream cheese, and it's going to sweeten it. So if you use granulated sugar or powdered sugar, it's really grainy, and it's not going to melt into the butter and the cream cheese the way we need it to. So this is powdered sugar is also called confectioner sugar, and it's going to melt beautifully into our mixture. Okay, so this is perfect. I did it all by hand. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll add in my powdered sugar, right? And I'm going to combine that until it's nice and smooth. It is going to take me a little bit of time, so I'll show you what it looks like when we come back, and then we'll add our flavoring ingredients. All right, so I finished mixing our powdered sugar into our cream cheese and butter mixture. So you can see it's nice and smooth. All right, so it's perfect. Perfect consistency. This is a glaze because it's going to melt. It will pour right on. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of lemon juice. This will cut down on some of the sweetness. Okay. And then we're going to add a little bit of vanilla extract. So we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of each of these. All right. And I'm going to do it directly in the bowl. All right. So the vanilla extract is for flavor. All right. That will help give it its nice vanilla flavor that we're looking for to complement the cinnamon. And then the lemon juice is bitter. So that's going to cut down on all that sugar that is in the cinnamon rolls, which you know that there was a lot. All right, so we're just going to mix this up until it's combined. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to let this kind of hang out. You can, if it's going to be for a long time, you can put it in the refrigerator. Mine will be quick, so it'll be fine at room temperature. And then it will be, we're going to bake our cinnamon rolls. So I'm going to show you what the cinnamon rolls look like. I have proofed them. Let me turn on the light. Okay, so they have, once again, there are our cinnamon rolls, so you can kind of see they puffed up a little bit more. I've let them proof for about 30 minutes. So originally I said I was going to let them proof for about 20 minutes. The recipe says up to 45. It's really, you just want them to get a little puffy. The puffiness is going to give them texture and a little bit more flavor. I preheated our oven to 350 degrees. I'm going to set them on the middle rack, and I'm going to let them bake for about 25 to 30 minutes, depending on your oven. You really want to make sure they cook on the top and on the sides. The problem with them is sometimes the middle is gooey. So that's why I said about 25 to 30 minutes, and we'll check the center. All right. So I'll show you what that looks like when they are done, and then we'll put the creamy glaze on. All right. All right, so the cinnamon rolls are done, and wait till you see them. They have come out of the oven, so you can see how much they have risen. They smell amazing. I let them get a little golden brown on the top. It took about 32 minutes in the oven, but again, every oven's different. So, all right, so now we're going to take our creamy glaze. You want to make sure that the center is done, and to do that, you can do the butter knife method, but I know as these cool, they will set. You don't want to eat yeast bread right away. You want to let it cool before you cut into it, especially with something like cinnamon rolls. You don't want them to be too cold, but you do want them to cool a little bit, or else you'll just the bread will just fall apart. All right, so we put our creamy glaze right in the center, and then we're just going to cover all the cinnamon rolls with that glaze, just to make sure that they all get a little of that deliciousness. So when we sell these at our Giavicino event at school, we sell one big cinnamon roll for $1. And they are one of our best-selling items at our Pastry Chef Giavicino. We have different menus. Two of our classes host Giavicino. Pastry Chef is the more popular menu, and they sell all bakery items like this. And then our other class, Cuisine Chef, they sell more breakfast-like menus, like egg sandwiches, breakfast burritos, things like that. But we always have the same coffee drinks. So be on the lookout for Giavicino. All right, so this is good to go. And then they are ready to serve up. And I hope if you wanted to make these that you share them with your family. It's a perfect weekend treat or any time of the day treat. And they are delicious. I hope you enjoy. Thank you so much.